Well, hello everybody. It is good to be back, and yeah, excited for episode 4 of Pest in Practice season 2. Some cool things on the plate for tonight. We'll try and keep the stream to an hour as we usually do, but certainly got some nice things in the pipeline. We've made quite a bit of progress on the Pest news site since we last did a stream. It's been a couple of weeks since we did a stream, so I pushed ahead and got a few things done. So I'll show you around where we are up to this point. But before we get there, I just want to say a big thank you to you all for coming. And in honour of that, Owen was nice enough, so Owen works on the Pest core team, he's in the chat. He was nice enough to go ahead and create a proof of admission for us, and you can go grab one for yourself. So I'm going to drop the link in the chat in a moment, but basically you can go and grab yourself a sweet little token which is unique to the stream, and it's proof of attendance that you have been to Pest in Practice. So that's pretty cool. It's completely free. You don't have to pay anything for it, and I will drop the link in the chat, and you can all go crazy. So yeah, thanks very much, Owen, for sorting that out for us. I hope you all enjoy your tokens. Another thing which happened this week, which I'm quite excited about, is that Sparsity released a new package, which was the Laravel Health package. And Freight kind of went back and forward with the Pest team as well, kind of showing us where he was with this. It was very exciting. So I'm glad it's here. I'm glad it's available to be installed, and we're going to install it on the Pest news site. Frake also had a stream on it, so if you want more in-depth details on how it works and things like that, his stream's the one to go to for that. But I'm excited about that, excited for what this will do for us. So yeah, looking forward to the stream, and I hope everyone's had a good day and you're ready to kick back, relax and enjoy Pest in Practice. Okay, so where are we with news.pestphp.com? Well, first of all, we now have a working sign up for our mailing list. So when I say working, I don't mean working live, like as in up and running on the internet. I'm talking about locally, but it is working, and it's using Laravel's Mail Coach, which we were kind of taking a little bit of a look at last time on the stream. But if I go here and do something like foo@bar.com, and let's drop me in, Luke Downing. I'll hit submit. You can see we get this. Thank you for subscribing. We've sent you a confirmation email using the power of Vue.js thanks to Inertia. And if I switch on over to hello, which I'm using for my local email monitoring, and I'll just need to use warp as well to do an AQ work. Okay, and yeah, if I do that and bring this up here, you can see that we do indeed receive an email telling us that we've subscribed to the Pest newsletter, and we can confirm it from here. So that's all up and running. Really pleased about that, and that's kind of allowed me to push on and do some other things. So one of those things is the blog index page, for example. Now I've just run setup. There are no blogs, so why don't we go ahead and create ourselves some blogs so you can see this. Let's tinker, and I'll say post factory new. Let's have 50 blog posts, and we'll create them, and then I can exit tinker. And if I come back here now and refresh, you'll see we have our blog post page. And again, thanks to Inertia, this is actually like it lazy loads the pages. So as we scroll down, I think it loads 12 posts, and then as we scroll and hit the bottom, we use an intersection observer just to load the next 12 in. So we're not flooding it, and then when you get to the very bottom, you can see we get this URL up-to-date info banner. So that's really cool. I'm really quite happy with how that's kind of come together. And it was so easy to implement with Inertia. I'll show you in a moment the implementation details, but the more I use Inertia, the happier I am with it. It's such a great experience. Let's click into a blog post. So this blog post doesn't actually have any content, but if it, any image I should say, but if it had an image, the image would be at the top between the title and between the content itself. And what I will do is let's open up news/wink. I'll log in as my example user. and let's go into one of these posts. And this is one of the things we want to formalize today. But in Wink, we can add tags. Now I want to pre-create some of these tags because tags like blog are always going to exist. But for now, let's create it manually. We'll hit done, update, and update the post. Ooh, that's interesting, isn't it? I think that actually would have updated it anyway. Let's have a quick look. Yes, looks like it's just a little Wink bug, perhaps. Let's go back to our posts and let's go ahead and make another of these a blog post. So we can do that. Let me see if it saves it as it is. Yes, it does. It saves it in real time. That's why we had the issue before. Okay, now if we come back to, say, this post here, and we refresh, you can see we actually get this nice related post section. And so it's going to pull in blog posts or any post that has similar tags and show it here. And it will show, I think, 3 posts there. So that's another thing that we've kind of gone in and added. Let's tell you what, let's actually see 3 posts. Why not? Let's treat ourselves to 3 posts. Let's choose this one as well. Okay, so now if we come back and refresh this, you can see we've got 3 related posts, and you'll also see that we have the sign up form down here as well. So if you've finished reading an article and you enjoyed it, then it's very easy to kind of sign up to the newsletter so you can get this content wherever you are. So quite a productive week for Laravel News for sure, and we can use some of the things that I've been implementing to continue with the series and kind of push this forward to an MVP. Hoping for an MVP quite soon so that we can kind of get the new site up and running, and so Pest can have an official blog like that. That's one of the key things. We want Pest to have an official blog. Let's jump into the code because the code obviously has come on quite a bit in order for this to take place. And the primary thing is that we have these new actions for loading posts. So because we don't own the models, we don't own a Wink post, I wanted a way to easily be able to kind of put the right filters on the post model without having to all the time use the scopes. So I decided to create a bunch of actions that could be past each other, if that makes sense. And so you kind of get this extensible API. So for example, imagine that we want to load related posts. Well, in this action, we pass in a post, and it's going to basically grab related posts for us based on the tags. But then we can wrap that action, or the result of that action, in a load publish post action. And this is going to limit the return posts to only those that are both published and live. In other words, the publish date is in the past. And then we even have this really cool one, load related publish posts as profit. Now let me explain what this does, because this was quite a cool little experiment. So imagine that you are an author. So you've actually got access to the admin and you're writing a post and it's not actually published yet, but you want to go and preview it. So I tell you what, let's go and create a brand new post. Let's call this Pest v2 released, right? And I want to write markdown. I'm going to use some lorem ipsum here just to fill out the content, which would be nice. And let's add the blog tag here, and let's also publish it, but I'm not going to publish it for now. I'm actually going to publish it for the 20th, let's say. So this is actually not a published post because it's not live. The publish date is in the future. It's a scheduled post. And if I preview this, you'll see we're using the same view as before, but it's going to tell us that we're in preview and we're viewing the post as it will appear once published. So what's actually happening here is rather than using the load related posts, we're actually using, for the preview controller, the load related publish posts as profit. And what this is going to do is when it grabs these related posts at the bottom, it's going to pretend that we're in the future. So it will actually show related posts that could be published at a later date. So what we see here should more or less be exactly the same as what the end user will see once this has actually been published. I hope that makes some form of sense. But that's kind of what I was going for with this little snippet. And I'm quite happy with the results. I think it's a nice API and it works well. in practice. Francisco, Alfred Lorem snippet is hot. Yes, it is. It's not actually Alfred though. This is Raycast. So Raycast is a free tool. It's an alternative to Alfred, I guess, and it's brilliant. I very much encourage you to go check out Raycast. If you don't like it, go back to Alfred. But personally, I think it's insanely good, and it seems a little bit snappier and more modern than Alfred. But yeah, I can just type lorem and generate a paragraph or sentence of lorem ipsum. So that's pretty cool. Okay, so let's take a quick look. I know this is about Pest, but I also just want to show you our blog page in Vue. So we're not going to stay here long, but this is kind of the blog index page, and this needs refactoring. The reason it needs refactoring is because I want to actually be able to reuse this template or this page for different pages. So this page should load posts that are a blog, but we might also have tutorials in the header here, and when you click tutorials it should load the same template but just limit the tags to tutorials. So I want to support that, and so we'll be doing a little bit of refactoring to kind of get that ability a little bit later down the line. But yeah, you can see the Vue component. We're basically doing this this little thing that Inertia allows us to do, which is really nice. When the component's mounted on the page, we create an observer, and I'm observing basically the bottom of our unordered list of posts. And what happens is when that gets hit, we call load more posts, which is going to use standard Laravel pagination, which is where this next page URL comes from. And if there is a next page URL, we're actually going to ask Inertia to get it, but it will only load the post property. And on success, we're going to concatenate posts from the data and posts from all posts. Yeah, I don't know how far I'm lagging behind, Vince. So if I've already said this and I'm referring to your comment now, like I don't know how far behind the comments are here, but yeah, that wasn't Alfred, it was Raycast. But yeah, this is really cool. I really like the power that Inertia offers and how easy it is to integrate with Laravel. Like, go check it out if you haven't already. It is really quite something. They've done a great job with the developer experience on this one. Okay, enough said. Let's go to our home controller. Post controller, that'll do us. And you can see we have this index, which is the blog index at the moment. And we also have this show, which is what we kind of had before, but now we are obviously grabbing related posts as well, which is sort of the new functionality since last time. So that's all well and good. The first thing I want to do, I've already created a branch called Laravel Health. I want to get Laravel Health installed in this project. Like, that's the first thing I want to do on stream. I'm really excited for Laravel Health, and I want to do it and then be able to just push this up and then carry on a new branch. So I've already got the documentation for Sparsy's Laravel Health up here, and we're just going to go and follow the installation steps. So first things first, I need to require Laravel Health. I'm not going to publish the config file. I've had a quick look through and I'm happy with using the Eloquent result store, and the rest is also fine for me at the moment. So if in the future, for example, I think at some point we're going to integrate with Odea, but if in the future I need to do that, I'll do that then. For now, I'll just install this. I will then publish the migration so that we can store these in the database, and then I can obviously migrate to create the health tables. Okay, we obviously then need to go to our kernel, so let's do that. Oh, wrong one. That'll do us. And you can see we already have all the mail coach triggers in there, but we're going to add one more. Sparsy is the king of triggers. And let's clean that up. So every minute we're going to run the health checks. Okay, and that sounds good. And it looks like we're basically there with that, other than actually creating or choosing our checks. So if we go to registering your first check, you can actually see that we install this using a service provider. And I think I'm going to create a new service provider for this just because I like to segregate service providers. They're free, they don't cost me money. So why wouldn't I use them to be like nice and segregated and separated so that I can easily understand what each service provider is doing. So let's say a make provider, and we'll call it Laravel Health Service Provider. And let's go into there. So Laravel Health Service Provider. And yeah, I don't think I need the register method. Everything's already registered for me. So I think I just need the boot method. And we can say health checks, which is good. So let's do that. Health checks. And we have different checks that we can actually do. So let's take a look at the available checks. Available checks. All right, debug mode is a big one. I'm actually quite interested in that one because that's something that you can easily forget to do, misconfigure, and everything goes wrong. So let's add the debug mode check new. We are using Horizon, and it's important that we have Horizon running because that is how our mailing list works. So let's also do the Horizon check new. Redis is also important for Mailcoach. So let's do Redis check new. We also have schedule. Let's have a look what this one is. Make sure the schedule's running. That makes sense. Easy to forget if you're setting up on a new server, for example. So let's do schedule check new. This is very easy. Send a request to a given URL. Okay, that's simple enough. Let's do ping check new URL, and let's say root home. Just make sure we can load the Pest homepage. If we can load the Pest homepage, everything's working well. And environment. Yep, so let's do that under there. Environment check, new. Cool. I think that's more or less everything. Database connection. Yeah, let's do database check as well. And we can put this with the Redis check. Database check new. Cool. So we've configured our checks, and I'm pretty happy with how easy it was to kind of just get things configured quickly. You can actually go and create your own checks, and it's as simple as implementing or I think extending a class that Laravel Health provides. But yeah, basically you can add as many of these as you want or as few as you want. And I think these are really nice checks just for those things that is so easy to forget. Like you quickly change the environment so you can look at an exception because you've not got exception logging up and running yet. And you forget to change it back. Or you move to a new server and you forget to actually configure the database. This is going to tell you before your users come and tell you, and that's always better. So yeah, really pleased with this. Let's just head into the app config and let's go to providers, and we want to add this provider to our application service providers. So app providers Laravel Health service provider class. Okay, and I tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to do a composer lint, which will give us our strict types and everything like that. And then let's just do a composer test to see if everything's broken. Looks like it is. Root not found exception. Home not defined. Okay, that's fine. I would expect home to be defined, but maybe I'm wrong. Let's load the blog and see if it does the same thing. That's interesting. Oh, hold on. I don't know. Laravel Health Service Provider runs after root service provider. So I would expect that the root service provider would have already created these. I wonder if we just do that for now. I'll ask Frake about that. Yep, that's fine. So this is create health tables. It's basically saying that there's no return type in. Well, it's void, so there doesn't need to be. And run again. And all our tests are still passing, which means that the service provider hasn't broken anything. And that puts us in a good place. So I'm going to go ahead. I'll stop my npm running for a second, and we will commit these files. I'll just say adds Laravel Health, and there are a few more checks I want to do before that goes in as a PR. Actually like run it and make sure it works, but more or less everything else there is done and set up, and I'm pretty happy with how easy that was. So thank you to Frake and Sparsy for all the work they put into the Laravel packages and how easy they are to integrate. They really do care, obviously, about the community. So yeah, appreciate that, and they keep helping Pest a lot. Like, Frake's been so good at giving us basically free software. He's basically giving up money to help Pest get up and running with things, and it's really appreciated. So thank you, Frake, for being such a good community member, and there's a reason why you are the package master. So thank you so much for all the support. Okay, I'm going to head back to the main branch, and let's go ahead and create a new branch, and this is going to be for our home index. Okay, so let me show you what I actually want to achieve here. I'm going to just set up my watcher again so I don't forget, and let's head back to our Chrome tab. On this front page, we obviously have this here. I am no designer, so forgive me at this point, because there may be some ugly things coming, but don't worry, I'm going to have someone who's got a much better eye take a look over all of this stuff before it goes live. However, I think it would be nice if at the top of the page we had some sort of sliding banner that does something very similar to the blog, okay, but possibly horizontally instead of vertically, and it's just like showcasing 3 posts at a time. They're not particularly blog posts, they're just the latest posts, so you can jump straight into the content. It's quite a common thing on new sites to kind of have this sort of thing in place, so I want to build that, and we already have a lot of the tooling in place. So for example, we already have in the post controller, we already have this publish post method where we grab the post, order by the publish date, and then return one of these new actions where we pass that builder in, and this is obviously then going to just load the publish posts. We already have done all that with our actions, so this is actually fairly straightforward for our homepage. We just need to implement it and obviously add support. So I'm going to head to my home controller, and the first thing I want to do is in the home controller test, I want to test that there is actually a piece of data being sent that is posts. Okay, so why don't we go to home controller test, and you can see at the moment that's just doing a single test, which is absolutely fine, but we're going to add to this now. So it sends the latest posts as a paginated. Yeah, that's a good idea as well, Dan. It would be very nice to have like a banner thing that appears above these when there is something that is very much wanted, or you want to bring the user's attention to. Say if there's a new release of Pest, that would be really nice. So yeah, it sends the latest post as a paginated collection. So let's get the root home, and I'm going to create some posts. So let's say post count, let's have 4 posts, because I said about there being 3 at a time. So I think we're going to paginate at 3. So you may be wondering, well, why have you created 4 then? This is how I like to test pagination is working. So I'm going to get the root home, I'm going to assert that it's Inertia, and let's open up this assertion. So we'll say page has, and close that out. Yeah, so I want to say page has posts, and that it should have 3 items in that posts page, okay? And we run this, it's going to actually fail because obviously post doesn't exist. So let's go ahead and switch to the home controller. And I'm just going to cheat here, and I'm going to add post, but it's just an empty array. And we'll run this again. It's going to say that 0 doesn't match the expected size of 3. Now here's the thing, right? I can just add 3 random things in here and all of a sudden this test passes, which means that this test isn't specific enough to actually tell us that this is working. What I actually want to do is something like this: expect to use action, and something like provides post resource class, which is how we format our posts before we send them to our endpoints, and return. And I like to just return something like title hello world. And since last time, the other thing I've done is provides post resource actually now has for a singular and for all if you're doing multiple. In this case, we are doing multiple, but we're going to be interacting with this as though it's singular, and that's quite important. So in this case, we actually want for and not for all, and you'll see why in a moment or two. If I run this, we're going to fail the test, and the test is going to fail because we never actually called that. So let's head back into our home controller, and let's, in the constructor here, let's ask for a provides post resource provider. Let's ask for one of those. And then here we actually want to get some real queries, right? So why don't we say we want published posts. So let's say give me a new load publish posts. That expects a builder. So in this case, we're going to say wink post query with the author, and we probably want to clean this up a little bit, but for now it's fine. And we can order by descending on the publish date. Okay, and then I want to handle this, and this is going to be my post query. Okay, in fact, let's just do it in a single thing. Let's say posts, and I want to paginate this 3 at a time, and then I want to pipe it through a callback. So if you don't know, if you're not familiar with the through method, it's similar to the map method. The difference is that it returns the exact same instance that was passed in. So if in this case paginate is going to return a length aware paginator, not just a standard collection. If we called map, the result would be a standard collection, but we don't want a standard collection because then we lose our pagination information. So instead, we use through in order to say, well, keep it as a pagination, keep it as a length aware paginator, but also do this to each item. Okay, so I hope that makes some sort of sense. That's basically why I'm using through here. But what we can do is say I'm going to receive a bunch of wink posts, and I want to say this post resource provider for post. Okay, and we have to pass the request in as well. So that's fine, we can do that. And now I can say posts, post, like that. And let's have a look. It failed to say the actual size 13 matches expected size 3. So this is because I've actually miscalculated the test. How paginations work, it's actually post.data. Okay, let's have a look again. Yeah, called 1 times, but called 0 times. For any arguments, let's have a look. What have we done wrong here? Provides post resource. Should be called at least 1 times, but called 0 times. Okay, this could be because something is going hilariously wrong elsewhere. Let's say this without exception handling. See if there's an exception being thrown under the hood. No. That's interesting. So let's take a look. Let's dump and die this post resource provider. Look what we've done. Provides post resource. We use the implementation rather than the contract. Classic mistake. There we go. We're passing. Okay, so I'm pretty happy with that. One other thing we can do is we can say, I want to make an assertion on what the actual value is of these things. So this is something that Inertia allows for. And it's as simple as saying assert item. And I can say item has and I'll probably drop this just onto a new line here. I can say item has title of hello world. So what I'm essentially checking is that it was actually this, like the value was actually what was returned from the action. In other words, the action is being used. And it's going to say, it must be of type int string given. That is interesting. Let's have a look. Key value closure scope. Assert count. Oh, hold on. Does this mean we can do this? No. I have failed in some way. Expected count must be of type int string given. Home controller test line 22. Is it? I need to use where instead of has. Aha, yes, indeed. I can never quite remember which one's which. But there we go. So now our test is checking, first of all, that even though we had 4 posts, it only returned 3 to us because we're paginating the data. And then secondly, we're checking that it's actually going to still use provides post resource as the thing that formats each and every one of these post data. So with that done, we can be quite confident that the home controller is going to return a bunch of paginated posts. Now, here's a cool thing with Inertia. If we pass the posts like this, we will always be returning the posts every single time this is called, even if it's called for an update, and we are going to be using this as an update for the homepage. So instead of just passing it as a standard thing, we can actually pass it as a closure. And when we do that, our test still passes. Everything still works, but Inertia is going to handle this lazily. It will only use the posts as and when needed, and it means we can make subsequent requests to this same method, and it will just return to us this post data. So imagine down the line we also have like users or something. It's quite common on a homepage to have lots of different things. It will only return the post to us rather than returning users and posts and everything else, just so we can do some dynamic updating on our page. So that's a good thing to keep in mind with how this works. Let's switch over to this again, and let's go to the inspector. I'll bring up the view inspector here. Okay, and let's head to layout and home, and here you can see we have posts, and you'll see that there is 3 objects in this post, which means that this is definitely working. We are able to see 3 posts and have it in a paginated manner. Okay, at this point I could dive into Vue and start implementing the front end for this. Not really what this series is about. We're PHP developers, and I don't want to get bogged down in Vue and spend the rest of the stream talking about Vue. I don't think people would appreciate that. So I'm actually going to do that off stream at another time when I won't embarrass myself over terrible styling as well. So what we will do here is just a little bit of refactoring. What I don't like is that I keep calling this wink post query with author order by descending publish date. So one thing about this is I use with author a lot. Let's find all of the instances of with author. I do it here, I do it here, I do it here. Basically anytime I grab a wink post, I add the author as an eager load. And that is an indication that because we're basically always going to use the author, we could actually add it here to the model. We don't have access to the model though, do we? So I think instead what I want to do is have another action that is going to implement this loads posts interface. And what it will do is give us like a default, a base to work from. Okay, so it'll basically allow us to go from nothing. Oh, I'm glad I could help you out with the lazy closure on Inertia, Francisco. Yeah, it's pretty sweet. It's quite amazing how well thought out everything is. Just dropping a closure in there, and all of a sudden, yeah, you can make subsequent requests to the same page and just grab individual pieces of data. Great for pagination. But yeah, I think we could have like a base version of that action that does this for us. Okay, so it loads the author, it orders things by descending, and it gets us up and running very quickly. So let's go ahead load posts, and why don't we say base or load, or kind of wanted to say something about loading posts, load base post, or maybe just load posts. I think that works. It's like the very, oh, don't want it to be a directory. It's like the very basic version of it, so that I think that's fine. Load posts. So load posts implements loads posts. And let's add the method stub, which is handle. And basically this is going to return wing post. I seem to have lost my refactoring, my IDE autocomplete for some reason. It's fine, let's push ahead and then we'll come back and do the imports after. So wing post query, we want to come back to our home controller, and I basically want to add this with and this order by descending. So we can do that, and that is our basic implementation, right? Load posts is very simple. It does the thing that we're going to want to do all the time, and that allows us to remove some duplication. Now if I owned this model, then I would prefer to use global scopes and also be able to just use the with attribute on the model, but in this case I don't, so I'm going to go with this instead. Now load publish posts passes in a builder, right? That's how it's working. We could actually perhaps provide a default here, so we could say that you can pass a nullable builder, and by default it equals null. And what it's going to say is this builder question mark equals a new load posts handle, right? So basically what's happening here is you can pass a custom builder, and that custom builder might be for something like loading related posts rather than just loading from the get-go. But if you don't pass a custom builder, we'll just assume you want to use the base loads posts. So this is quite a cool pattern that you can do, just providing defaults but still allowing them to be overridden or injected from further up the chain. So now here we don't have to do this at all. We just say load publish posts, handle, paginate, and go through. And if I run my tests, my test still passes. But this will allow us to go back to, say, the post controller. And where we have this here, well, this looks awfully familiar now, doesn't it? And that's because we basically can just get rid of this entire thing. We can get rid of the duplication, and we could say, yeah, we could still pass this builder in. So we could say wing post builder if you've got one, but otherwise that's going to be null and everything else should just work. So let me do a composer lint, and then composer, I'm going to do just test unit to make sure our tests still work. Yeah, tests still work, which means we have successfully refactored that without any breaking changes. So you see here, we just say give me the publish posts. It's going to go through. We've passed null here, so we load publish posts passing null, which means it falls back on this load posts and then adds the published and live scopes. Whereas in the show version, we want to get related posts. So in this case, rather than starting with just load posts, we start with load related posts, handle that, and then limit it to 3 and get the result. So I like this way of working. I think the nice thing about this, because it returns a builder, is that depending on the layer of our application we're in, depends on how we finish off the chain. So we could paginate it, we could limit it to a certain number and then get the result. We could do pretty much anything we want because we have a builder and not just a collection that we then can't do anything with. All right, already. Let's search. I'm going to go ahead and find that publish date with order by and just check if we're doing any more duplication anywhere. Possibly not actually, we might have might fix that. Let's do order by descending. That's in load post, so I'm okay with that. Now here's an interesting one. So in load related posts, if I move this from here to here, you'll see that this is duplication. Nothing major, but it is duplication. And we can fix that by just saying new load posts handle, and let's run composer test unit again, and now we have those global scopes essentially back in place, but we're not doing the duplication of loading them again. That's handled for us by the load post action. Let's go back to order by descending. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. I think that's kind of done all of the removal of duplication for us, and we're kind of just left with a very nice version. I guess we could probably do with a test for this load post action. I've not got any test in for that yet, so let's go ahead and add that. Let's create a new PHP file here, and it's going to be called load posts test. Okay, so we'll say it loads published. Yeah, let me think. It loads published live posts. So that is all we need to say. So let's say, give me a post. The post is published, which is the most simple version of this. Then we'll create a post, and we're going to say, let's just assign that to a reference, and we'll call it published post. If I can type. We're going to say that this one is scheduled. So in other words, it's published, but it's for the future. And then we'll say that we also want one that is unpublished. So we have three posts, one published, one scheduled. That comment doesn't really add anything at this point. We've been very declarative with our factories, which is always important. So I think we can leave that at that. And then we want to say, give me a new action. So we'll say action equals new load posts, and we can import that class. And then I want to say action handle. And that's pretty good. So what I want to say there is action handle get, or I can even say count. But I will say get because I want to check that it is actually this published post. So we'll say expect get to have count of 1, and the first item is the published post to be true. Okay, so this higher order expectations, if you've not seen that before, we basically are checking that the collection has one item in it, and once we've checked that, we're going to say now call the first method on the collection, call the is method on the model, which is the first item in the collection, and expect it to be true. And so let's run this test. You'll see it's failing at the moment because it's failed to certain the actual size 3 matches expected size 1. Now this is interesting. Oh, I'm an idiot. We're not actually I don't know why I've completely gone the other way around there and got confused at some point, obviously. But all this is doing is checking that the author is there and that it's ordered by descending. So that's actually what we want to check. In which case, it loads all types of post. Excuse me. Let's get rid of that. I tell you what, we can still kind of use that because we can say ordered by most recent. So in this case, because this one is scheduled, it will be in the future. So scheduled post, and the unpublished version, yeah, it adds a day to it. So let's say now add a week, and we'll call this future post. And let's also do a past post. So post, we'll say create, and we'll say publish date is now sub a year, which is technically what publish post is doing on its own, but it doesn't go back that far. So I will double check by creating one in the deep past. So now I expect it to have a count of 4. I expect the first item to be the future post, right? Because it's ordered by that date. I expect the last item to be the past post. Okay, run that, and we are passing, which means that the ordering is working correctly. It also means that we do indeed grab all of the posts in this case. I guess the other thing we also want to check is that it's loaded with the author. However, I think that's by the by, because our other tests would just fail anyway because we have eager loading disabled. So, we have forcing eager loading enabled. So you wouldn't actually be able to run any of the other tests because they would break and tell you that you need to eager load the author relationship. In other words, it's being tested implicitly. Let's run composer.lint. Let's run composer test and see where we're at. Okay, cannot call method published on eloquent builder, wink post, or null. Load publish post. Let's take a look at that. So this is PHP stand giving a little whinge. Okay, this is fair dues. I am going to do this a slightly different way. I'm going to say yes, you can pass null in there, which is fine. And then I'm actually going to add it here instead. I think PHP 8.1 would fix this because we could add this directly to the declaration, but I'm not running PHP 8.1 yet. Hey Frake, glad you could join us, and thank you. I tried to make my test look good. Yeah, I'm not running PHP 8.1 just yet, just because of a few libraries I'm waiting on to kind of be fully compatible. So yeah, that's what I'm waiting for. In the meantime, I will have to defer to this, sadly. But yeah, this is a builder of wink post, and that's still a builder equals null. What have I done wrong here? Aha, that will do it, won't it? So yeah, so now we know that the builder is never going to be null by the time we actually call it, or at least PHP stand knows that. Hopefully that fixes the error. Let's have a look. Constructor has an unused parameter builder. Yes, because this should now be this builder equals builder or the other one. So this just shows that even if you've got tons of tests, it's still useful to have this static analysis layer, because it picks up on all these little things that your tests would just be okay with, but static analysis will actually say, no, you're not quite right. Like, if you want things to never break, make sure you do this. So it's nice to have that validation from PHP stand. Let's commit where we are at the moment. Let's say work in progress, and let's move forward. So another thing that I kind of want to support here, hoping not to go off track too much, and bearing in mind we only have like 10 minutes of the stream left. But in the home controller, I'm obviously now going to use this load publish posts to load publish posts, which is great. And in the post controller, I am doing this publish post paginate for the index. But what I actually want to do here is I want to make this more generic. And I did talk about this a little bit earlier in the stream, but for those who have joined a little later on, basically the blog page works. It works really well. I'm really pleased with it. But at the moment, it's loading every type of post. What I actually want is only to load posts that have the blog tag. Okay, if they don't have the blog tag, they shouldn't load on this page, but I want to use the same view template when I'm creating other pages, such as say a tutorials link that opens the tutorial section. So what I actually want, I think, is another action that loads posts based on tags. So let's create a new class, loads posts by tag. Okay, and this implements loads posts, and I want to actually refactor that before we even begin to load posts by tag. And let's import this implementation, and we have the handle method. So what I want to say is that in the constructor, well, I feel like maybe I've hit a memory limit somewhere, streaming in 4K here, because I'm no longer getting any auto completion. That's fine. We will press on. I want to pass in an array of data. So this is sort of like how we've done things in the past. But yeah, I want to pass in an array of data, and let's have a look. What's wrong with this? Property usage has same access. Yeah, that's fine. And I want to say that that data is supposed to be maybe int and string. And I guess we could just pass that through as tags, right? Possibly. I'm a little unsure whether to pass it through as tags or whether to pass it through as string mixed. And that would obviously expect, yeah, I'm going to pass it through as data string mix. Let me explain what I'm doing here. I then need to validate this. So I'm going to say validator make, and let's import the facade, or we could just use validate actually, to be fair. And we're going to validate this data, and I want to add some rules. So first of all, it should have tags. Tags is required, and it is an array, and it has a min of 1. We'll add tests for this in just a moment. And then I want to say tags.all, GitHub Copilot coming in here, and I want to say that each one has to be in tags. And I tell you what, let's take a quick look at the database here. And we want to look at Wink tags. We have slug and name. I think slug is probably the best one to go with. So it has to be in tags, and it has to be in the slug column. And I think that's exists, not in. So we have to pass in a bunch of tags, at least one, and each tag has to be a string, and it has to exist in the tags table under the slugs column. Okay, so we can say data equals, and that will obviously throw a validation error if there are any problems. So because it throws a validation error, I want to say @throws validation exception, which we'll import. Okay, and then I can use that data to actually load the correct thing. So why don't we say return new, and maybe actually we can also pass in a builder, but we'll use our default again as before. So private, or just builder, sorry, builder, and we'll say equals null. So you don't have to pass one if you don't want to. We'll say @param builder wink post builder, and it's also nullable. Let's import that class, and I want to say this builder, which I'll add in just a second, equals builder or new load posts handle. Okay, so we always have a builder. We can either pass it in for something like loading related posts with a tag, otherwise we can just build it dynamically, and it will automatically give us the correct starting point with load posts. So I'll add a private builder builder, and it's a builder of wink post, and it cannot be null. Let's have a look. What's this complaining about? Yeah, we haven't read it yet, but that's fine. So this is going to say this builder, and what do we want to say? We want to say where. Oh, look at this, GitHub Copilot coming in, absolutely lovely there. So where has tags, and we use the query to say, look, here's the data. We could probably reduce this to a simpler shorthand function, shorthand closure. So query wherein the slug data tags, and that should actually work. I'm constantly and continuously surprised by how good GitHub Copilot is. Sometimes it falls short in a few places, but most of the time it does an amazing, pretty outstanding job of actually doing what you're interested in. So yeah, that's our basis, right? For this action, we want to load post by tag. We pass in the data. It's going to validate that those tags actually exist, which is very important for our tests. And then we're going to say, right, okay, once you've done that, actually check that or limit the results to posts that actually have those tags. So that's very useful. And we should be able to now create a test for that. So let's go ahead, head down to our test from earlier, and let's create a new directory, or a new PHP file, sorry, called load posts by tag test. So it limits the given posts to those in the, or with those with the specified tags. And let's say post, and I think I did has tags. Yes, I did. So that's useful. And we can say, did I create a tag? Yes, I did. So tag count, well, let's just do tag create. And we'll put that up here. So tag equals tag create. And we'll give it an actual slug that we like. So something like slug equals foobar. We'll pass that tag in, and then we will create that post. So post with tag. And I tell you what, let's say posts with tag, because we'll do a count. So let's do, say, 3 of those. And then we'll say posts without tag. And this is just post count, let's say 2, and create. Okay, so now we have our 1 tag. We've created 3 posts that contain the tag and 2 posts that don't contain that tag. Let's build our action, which is going to be a new load posts by tag. And we pass in our data, and we also pass in an optional builder. Well, for this test, I'm not going to pass a builder in, but I am going to pass data in. So tags is going to be equal to foobar, like that. And then we can say action handle. And this is obviously going to be a builder. So I want to say get, and I can say expect that to have a count of 3. Let's run the test. It's going to say no such table tags. That is not useful at all, is it? I think this potentially is because of our action rather than anything else. So this could be more to do with this. Let's take a look at the wink post. And this has tags. Let's take a look at the exception. This data, it's there, look, isn't it? In wink tags. Boom. Yay! Test passed. So this is all well and good. We now are checking that it is actually correctly limiting to the right tags. Let's add a little more complexity to this test. So let's create 2 tags. We'll have foo tag, and we'll have bar tag. Okay, and we'll say valid post, or we'll say foo post. So has tags foo tag, bar post, and in fact I'll just duplicate that. Bar post is going to have the bar tag. Okay, and then let's create a foo bar post, which is the post, and we're going to get rid of this count, so we're just doing a single post for each, which is going to have tags, and we'll pass in a collection of the foo tag, and although actually I don't think it accepts collection, I think it accepts eloquent collection with how we've done it, but that's fine. We can just say has tags wink tag, all like that, and then create that. So we basically have 3 posts, and they have a bunch of different tags. We have posts that don't have any of those tags, and we're going to say it should still have a count of 3, and in here we're going to say foo and bar. Yeah, there we go. So we're still passing, and all we've done here is we've just made the use cases a little bit more complex to make sure that we can actually pass different amounts of tags in and things are loaded correctly. So for example, it's not loading this one twice into the result sets or anything weird like that. It is in fact still loading properly. So this works nicely. We have come to the end of the stream, and we've run out of time, but I'm pretty happy with where we are now. I'm pretty happy with how things are going, and I will probably after the stream go ahead and write up a test to make sure that it still works correctly when we pass in our optional builder. So for example, if we want to load related posts but limit them to certain tags, that we can actually do that as expected. And once I've done that, I will likely go in and obviously on the site itself update how this blog works to pass in a query. So this will probably be something like posts / tag equals blog, and that's probably exactly how it's going to work. And then if you've got another item in here called tutorials, that's going to load posts tag tutorials, and so you kind of get the exact same experience across the site, but it's dynamically loading in the right content. And not only that will that make it a lot easier to add these, but also Inertia is going to be really happy because it already has all of the information it needs once you've loaded one of these pages. So it will make these pages super snappy, super responsive, and it should work pretty nicely. Guys, I want to say thank you so much for joining me on the stream. I really appreciate it. Again, if you've not already done it, you can go ahead and get yourself an NFT for free, all about the fact that you visited and attended Pest in Practice episode 4. Thank you again, Owen, for that great gift. And yeah, it's really cool that we live in such an awesome community where we're willing to kind of do these things for each other and help out. I want to say thanks to all you guys for joining me on the stream, coming and hanging out and spending your evening or afternoon or wherever you are, whatever time you're in, spending it with me. I really appreciate that. And I just want to say, keep writing those tests, enjoy Pest, and take care. Bye guys.